Welcome to episode 14 of the Credit Card BS podcast. My name is Sean. I'm the UC Berkeley graduate that created and taught the university-sponsored course on credit card rewards. I'm here with my co-host, Sherwin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sherwin. I'm a Stanford student who is really into the points and miles and credit card travel hobby. Got into this about a year ago, and since then, I've amassed a ton of points and gone on a lot of cool trips with my family. Here to share with you things I've learned along the way. The reason this podcast is called the Credit Card BS podcast, as many of you probably know by now, is because the initials BNS reflect the schools Sean and I attend, Berkeley and Stanford, but as usual, we've put aside our differences today to talk about credit card rewards. Today's episode, the ultimate guide to airport lounges.
Yes, so why should you care about airport lounges? Yeah, what's the point in this? What's the big deal? My response to that is the $7 airport water bottle, okay? Would you rather sit in a crowded airport terminal and pay for overpriced food that is completely mediocre, or would you rather sit and relax in a clean space with free food and drinks? The answer to me is obvious, right? Now, the thing is, though, your response is okay, yes, that obviously sounds nicer, but like most things in life that are nicer, I must have to pay for that. And for the average person, probably yes. Usually a airport lounge where you'll go in and have some free food and drink is probably going to be about $50 at least per person per visit, which is stupid. That's too expensive. I think that is ridiculous for the value of the food you're getting. Do you think there's ever any value in buying a membership or buying, a day pass?
Um, Unless you're getting reimbursed for it, probably not. Because I'll give you an example. Like the club lounge in SJC, they sell like day passes for like something like $50 a person, which is absolutely ridiculous because like the food really is not good at all. And $50 you can get much better food, even if it's overpriced food, right? So it really depends on location. And also like you can get into this lounge using priority pass, which is something we'll talk about in a bit. But generally, no, I think we should be going to lounges only if you're getting it as a perk of a credit card that already pays for itself in other ways.
I definitely agree. Yeah, I think so. That's really where, for most people, the key is going to be, and that a lot of these premium credit cards come with lounge memberships in some form or another. And these make so much sense because if you look at the price of buying any kind of lounge membership directly, just getting the credit card that comes with that same membership is almost always cheaper. Like even without any other benefits, like it's always almost like going to be significantly cheaper. And so the main lounge network that we're going to get access to with credit cards is Priority Pass. So a ton of major premium credit cards give you a Priority Pass membership. And so Priority Pass is just a network of lounges around the world. And, they have various different ones depending on location and airport. And, I've found them to be fine. I haven't been ever impressed, I would say, with the Priority Pass lounge. Maybe the Sapphire Lounge in Hong Kong Airport, that was pretty good. But normally they've been just okay to me. Like you mentioned the club lounge at SJC. I visited the club at Las Vegas. I was so unimpressed. I actually left the
I've
lounge.
also been to that Las Vegas one, and it's bad.
It's awful,
Yeah,
right? I literally like was just waiting in there so I could get into the Centurion lounge,
I think it's
after them.
offensive that they sell day passes at like $50 or something. Mm.
I agree. I think it is like ridiculous. Like if anyone's paying that, I would feel so ripped off.
I do have to say, party pass lunches can be hit or miss, but and especially in the US, some of them are not really as good. But there have been some like pretty solid ones I've been to abroad. Like, for example, the Taipei airport, I would almost argue that the priority pass uh, lounge there, where you can get like a full meal delivered to your table that's included, um, is like better than the class lounge that I subsequently visited on my airline. So it really depends on location. I wouldn't write off this entire program just because you've had a few mediocre experiences in the US. It just depends on location. So the way you get Party Pass membership is that you buy it the Priority Pass website. No, I'm just kidding. Why would we ever do that? We will actually get this, as an included perk in a lot of more premium travel credit cards. I personally feel like the the best ones to get are the Capital One Venture X. This one has a $395 annual fee, but it comes with a $300 annual travel credit and 10,000 anniversary points, which pretty much makes the annual fee pay for itself. But the really powerful part of this card is that it lets you add, I believe, up to 3 authorized users for free, and each of them have their own Party Pass membership. And each Party Pass membership lets you plus 2 guests go in. So theoretically, with one Venture X card, you could bring like 12 people into a lounge.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think that's also like a very good option. And before we talk about the other cards that have it, I think there's something we should also discuss is that there's Priority Pass lounges, and then there's also Priority Pass restaurants slash experiences. So at certain airports, what there'll be is there'll be these like normal restaurants that you can go and sit down at and have some food, or maybe there'll be like a little airport spa type thing. And if you have a Priority Pass card, or at least certain Priority Pass cards, at the restaurant, maybe they'll give you $28 for you and one guest, or at the spa, they'll give you a 15-minute treatment for free. And these are also pretty cool because especially at like smaller airports where they may not have a good lounge, or maybe the lounge there kind of sucks, but sitting down at a legitimate restaurant is a lot nicer. So it can be a really cool experience. But the thing is, it doesn't work for all Priority Pass memberships. So any Priority Pass membership that is issued by American Express does not have access to the restaurants and experiences. In addition, the Capital One Venture X Priority Pass does not, at a time of recording, have access to restaurants slash experiences. They used to have it. It's one of the main reasons I had my player 2 get the card, and then a year after they got rid of it. So if you want it, you're going to need to have the Sapphire Reserve. Or do you know if the Altitude Reserve from US Bank offers it? I know like
Yes,
it
I was
has a
about to
priority pass.
mention. So the main cards you can get with, if you really want restaurants, is the Chase Sapphire Reserve, the Ritz Carlton card from Chase, which you can only get by product changing from the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless. It's a 450 annual fee card. We might do another episode about this, but that one arguably has the best Party Pass membership because I think it has unlimited guests, but don't quote me on that one. And then the US Bank Altitude Reserve, I think, is a very interesting proposition because the Priority Pass membership includes restaurants, but you only get 4 visits per year. So what my personal strategy has been is to use the Party Pass from the Venture X or from the American Express Platinum, or even the Hilton Aspire has a Party Pass membership. So that one will give me unlimited lounge access, but then I save those 4 times a year Party Pass visits from US Bank Altitude Reserve for those restaurants. How the restaurants work is, and I've been to a couple myself, is you present them your Party Pass up front, they swipe it, and then if it's you and a guest, you can have one guest, you'll get up to $26, sorry, 20, yeah, I think it's $26 a person in credit to order whatever you want, basically. So for 2 people, that is 50 something dollars. Um, and that's really solid amount of money you can order things. Now, granted, most Party Pass restaurants, are in airports, so they're already overpriced. But you could get a decent meal with that, from my experience. And the fact that you could bring one guest and have them be entitled to their own $28 for a total of $56 is pretty insane. Now, it does not cover tips, so you will have to do that.
I do want to ask you, I've heard some data points of, let's say you and your player 2 are both Priority Pass members. Can you present your Priority Pass card to the restaurant and say, oh, yes, this person's my guest? And then the other person do the same thing to double up on the credits?
I've never tried that myself. My guess is it would depend on the person working at the restaurant, but I wouldn't count on this as a reliable strategy, if I'm going to be completely honest.
That makes sense. I do think that it could work because the restaurant probably is just getting reimbursed by Priority Pass anyway, so they probably are happy to do it potentially. But yeah, I agree. It's going to depend on the person working. So I think then we should move on to what I would say is a higher tier of lounge membership. So these are Centurion lounges. So Centurion lounges are lounges that are run by American Express, and you can have access to the Centurion lounges with one of 3 credit cards. So you can have an American Express Platinum card, so like Platinum, Business Platinum, Schwab Platinum, all those work. You could have an American Express Centurion credit card, which if you have that, send us a DM. We'd love to talk to you. I'd love to meet some Centurion members. But also, if you have the Delta Reserve credit card, business or personal, and you are flying Delta, you can get access to the Centurion Lounge. Now, a lot of people have been complaining about these recently, and rightfully so, because they have gotten packed, absolutely squished, stuffed. It's insane. But I find the food in these to be significantly higher quality than their Priority Pass equivalents. So far, I haven't had bad food in a Centurion Lounge. I visited three. I visited the one in LAX, Las Vegas, and SFO. Those all had pretty good food, better than any Priority Pass lounge I've been to. What is your experience with Centurion lounges so far?
I mean, I also generally agree. I honestly haven't been to that many since they changed the guest policy because my dad's the primary platinum card holder in my family. Um, but I mean, I think the Las Vegas Centurion Lounge versus the club, which we talked about, are night and day in terms of the type of food they provide. I think these Centurion Lounges usually hire a particular chef that makes dishes there every day. They have something for breakfast, something for lunch or dinner service. They usually also have an open bar, um, and the drinks, alcohol are included. So if you're someone who enjoys those drinks, that's pretty good value. Is buying alcohol at an airport can be quite expensive. In fact, that's open bar could represent a lot of value to people. I do want to mention the way to get into these lounges is by holding basically a platinum card. And it used to be that you can bring in two guests with the platinum card, but they've changed it since that you have to spend, I think, $75,000 on that particular platinum card to be able to bring guests. And that's that much spend for like within a calendar year. Kind of insane, considering the fact that the platinum card only earns 1x points on everything. I find that a huge opportunity cost to put that much spend on that one card. So to me, it's not worth it. It's almost more worth it to add authorized users for, I believe, $175, depending on the flavor of the platinum card. Um, but even that's still pretty expensive. So it almost might be more worth it for, if you multiple people in your family really want to go, to have each person get their own platinum card. And so they can get all, like, even though that's huge annual fee for each person, the fact that you can get like multiple credits to offset that fee actually might make more sense than adding authorized users. So what's your opinion on this, Sean? Is it even worth it at all at this point?
It's tricky. I think, if you're getting the platinum card, maybe don't just get it for the Centurion Lounge. But for me, it's a feature that it's like, God, I can't imagine going to the Las Vegas club again. Would rather just not go to a lounge. So if I'm gonna be going to Vegas, I'm gonna be glad I have the Centurion card. And when I had went, I could have changed. It was about like a year ago when I was most recently there. I didn't have an issue getting in. It wasn't a line. I think if you're going to like Vegas on a random weekday, you probably should be fine. So I had, good experiences there. And I would agree with your take that adding authorized users could make sense, possibly. It really depends on the circumstances. But, if your player two can justify a second one, that's obviously, great as well. And so I also want to talk about, there's kind of the baby Centurion Lounge as well. So these are the escape lounges that are run, I
Mm.
believe the name is escape lounges that are, run as like Centurion studio lounges. So they have these in some airports where, the airport isn't really big enough to have a Centurion lounge. So for example, like at Oakland Airport in Northern California, they have an escape lounge. I visited that one, for example. It was fine. Honestly, it was probably better than like most priority pass lounges still. So,
You do
that's
need the
also like another
Centurion or the platinum card to get in, right? So a party pass membership won't do.
correct. Exactly. Yeah. You need still like in the American Express. The Delta Reserve also, did work, for
Mhm.
flying Delta. But I
Yeah.
think it's nice. This is like why Amex, I do really wish Amex would add Priority Pass restaurants to their membership because with the Platinum, they really are going for like the most comprehensive single credit card for lounge access.
Mhm.
And they would make it perfect if they could just add that restaurant benefit. Like it would round it out perfectly to me.
I agree. There's also a set of Capital One lounges. This is kind of a fairly new network, and I'm really excited about them because the one that's open in DFW looks really good. I haven't been to it myself. I would love to, but the fact that there's just more competition with Amex, I think, is a good thing for us as consumers. The idea is that if you have the Venture X card, you can have unlimited visits. If you have Venture card, which is like the $95 annual fee one from Capital One, you can have two visits a year. But the Venture X is probably the way to go for that. And like the food at DFW, from what I've seen online, is really good. And they're also going to open up one in Las Vegas in the future. So I'm excited to have
I'm very
more than
excited for that.
just Centurion and the club.
Definitely, I'm very, very excited for that too. I think it's going to be really interesting to see if they'll, maintain that same quality standard across all of them because I think that will make Amex step up their game. Because if I can go to the Capital One Lounge and have no line, and versus I have to wait an hour and a half for the Centurion Lounge, a lot of people are going to start moving over to that Venture X because if I don't have to wait, that's half the benefit right there. So yeah, I definitely agree. I think another lounge network that's kind of interesting, and I'm not as familiar with this one, is Plaza Premium. So it's another lounge network, kind of like Priority Pass. I think a bit better than Priority Pass lounges. And I'm not fully familiar with all the cards that provide access. I know American Express Platinum gives you access. Are you familiar with which cards
Yeah, so
specifically?
here's the whole story. It used to be that Party Pass would let you go into most of these Plaza Premium lounges. Then they changed it so that only the American Express Platinum and the Capital One Venture X people had access, not other Party Pass ones. So Chase arguably became the weakest in that link. And then it changed where the Capital One Venture X lost access to the Plaza Premium lounges, so you had to have the Platinum card. And then recently, they changed it so that some Plaza Premium lounges are now back in the Party Pass network. So, do your research at the time of watching. That's my that's my answer.
It's been changing a lot. That's what I remember
Yeah.
too. And so the platinum card in this case is, so far been the only one that's like consistently had it. But so it's just another lounge network. I've only been to one in Hong Kong. I was very unimpressed, but I'm sure there are better ones around the world. So I think now we should talk about potentially a higher tier type of lounge, maybe on par to Centurion, depending on which ones. These are airline lounges that are like direct with the airline. So these are not like lounge networks. These are either run by airlines themselves or by the alliance that the airline is a part of. And so there's plenty of examples of these. I think one of the most notable and easiest to gain access to is Delta Sky Clubs. These have also become infamous for overcrowding recently, but you do have access to these if you have the Delta Reserve card and are flying Delta, or the Centurion/Platinum card and are flying Delta. So that they seem to be pretty high quality from what I can tell. Have you been to a Delta Sky Club before?
I have not. I mean, I really don't fly Delta in general, and I don't have those cards. But from what I've seen, they're really trying to deal with the overcrowding issue, and I think that's just a consequence of Delta prioritizing the revenue they get from American Express. To be quite frank, with a lot of people going, I think it's almost easier to get into a Delta Sky Club as a platinum card holder than it is as like an elite status person with Delta, which is quite crazy to me since everyone can get the platinum card if you pay the annual fee, whereas you have to fly a lot with Delta to get status. But that seems like the route they're going for in terms of maximizing revenue.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting thing to watch happen. Like there are, top tier status members that are being treated worse than some dude that opens the platinum card. And it's just very odd to
Yeah.
me.
I mean, a lot of
And
people are angry because they're like, we fly a lot here, and but like, and now these are so overcrowded. Sometimes I can't even get in. Some of these lines are so long. You should not let all of these platinum card holders in. But that's the way it works now. So if you are a platinum card holder, that's good for you.
definitely. And so there are some other ones of these as well. So in terms of like this, mid-tier segment of like the Delta Sky Club range, we have United clubs, which I think are a bit below Delta Sky clubs. Those are tougher to access. The best way is going to be if you have the United Club credit card from Chase. I think I visited one United club before in Los Angeles. It was fine. It was sufficient. It was pretty spacious, good amount of seating, but I wouldn't say I was
It's
impressed
not
by
as
any
good as the
means.
Centurion lounges, right?
I would say it probably is less crowded because it was a lot more spacious, but the food is significantly worse. Yes, definitely. And so, but you can have access to that if you want access to American Airlines Admirals clubs, you can get the American Airlines executive credit card from Citi. That's the cheapest way to get access to that. I've heard those are hit or miss, really depending on it. Another one that's interesting is Lufthansa lounges. So if you hold the platinum card, you can get access to the Lufthansa lounges if you're flying Lufthansa, which is kind of
Mm.
an underrated benefit not a lot of people talk about. Uh, Now let's move on though to the better lounges if we're talking about ones that are run by the alliances or like the legitimate business class airlines. So do you want to talk about those first?
Certainly. So the one I'm most familiar with is the United Polaris lounges. I'm skipping a little bit, but the United Polaris lounges are unique in that no matter what status you have with United, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what credit cards, what status you have. The only way to get in is if you're holding a Star Alliance business or international business or first class international flight ticket. These are, in my opinion, some of the best lounges in the United States. Spacious seating, really good food. They usually have like a section where you can actually sit down and order food as if you were in a restaurant, and it's all included. They have nice showers, nice facilities, very spacious. And I think the reason you're able to maintain that quality is just because of how hard it is to get it. It's not based on credit card, not based on status, but based on Star Alliance
So
International business or
I do
first
want to
class.
ask you a question here then. So if you're saying it's not based on status, so if I am if I'm flying, let's say ANA economy, but I hold Star Alliance Gold, I will not have access to the Polaris Lounge. Is that correct?
That is correct. It would have to the ticket has to be business or first in Star Alliance.
Very interesting. That's yeah, you're right. That's definitely what is keeping it, to such a high standard.
Yeah.
And so yeah, what's interesting is like and this is unique because a lot of times in these alliances, they'll if you hold Star Alliance Gold, you can have access to any Star Alliance business class lounge if you're flying on a Star Alliance carrier. But this is I guess a unique exception to that, and that's why they're able to have higher quality than
Yeah.
other business class lounges. Because a lot of times I've been to these business class lounges and I've been pretty unimpressed.
Yeah, and especially with Polaris, it has to be, like, international, so even if you're flying, like, business domestically, you can only go to the United Club, which, to be clear, United Club is the what Sean talked about is, like, a lot is really nowhere nearly as good as the United Polaris lounges, which I would argue are better than, like, all of the Party Pass and the Centurion lounges and the other airline lounges in the US.
I would agree with that for sure. And so, yeah, this is really where we enter a much higher tier of lounges. And so, what's interesting though is like, so we talked about like Star Alliance Gold. There's also with One World, you can have, if you have Sapphire or Emerald status with them, then you will have access to their business class lounges. And so, those can be pretty good. Sometimes those will be like, a specific carrier's lounge or just the Alliance lounge itself. What's interesting in particular with One World Emerald is you'll have access to the first class lounges as well, which is the only alliance to allow that. And that's really big because if you have access to those first class lounges, those will be significantly, significantly better than, the business class lounges because business class lounges can get rather crowded sometimes. And so it doesn't work for all of them though. Okay. So, like, one notable exception is even if you hold One World Emerald, you do not have access to the Al Safwa First Class Lounge in Doha, Qatar. So the Al Safwa First Class Lounge is widely hailed as the best, if not one of the best lounges in the world. Okay, it's definitely like top five, no question. And so I visited this lounge. It is amazing. Okay, full like restaurant dining. They'll bring out drinks to you if you're sitting somewhere else. Full shower facilities, full nap rooms. We took a nap that was like literally a hotel room, like literally free hotel rooms, basically that you get to use. I took a hot tub in an airport. They filled up a actual like giant bathtub, and I was just sitting there for 45 minutes, going like, "What the hell am I doing? I'm in an airport taking a hot tub." So that was really cool. And so this is like really where we enter that tier of lounges that are you can like I would never extend my layover to have more time in the United Club. Okay, maybe I'll get there a little early to eat something, but I specifically scheduled the longest layover possible in Doha to have access to Al Safwa. I had an 18-hour layover there just so I could go to the hotel room there, wake up, have breakfast, have a hot chocolate, go to the hot tub, have lunch, and just have a whole
Are they
like,
open
all
24
inclusive day.
hours?
They are open 24 hours. Yes. I
Okay.
don't know how the restaurant works specifically. I know like you can get like drinks 24 hours. I believe the spa is 24 hours. I don't know about the rest. I'm sure there is some 24-hour dining option though.
That's awesome. I mean, the other really good business and first class lounges I'm aware of is the Cathay ones in Hong Kong. So if you're
Oh,
flying
yes.
Cathay, I've never been myself, but if you're flying Cathay business or first, it's one of the best lounges in the world from what I've seen online.
Yeah, I'll be flying Cathay Business in just a few weeks actually, so I'm excited to try out the one in Hong Kong because I'll
There's
be
actually
both flying.
two of them. So, and there's one like in upstairs, one downstairs, and then I think there's a whole part where you can like reserve a space to like sleep and lie down. One you can take like a bath. That might be first class though, so
I think that
should
the
double
Bath
check on
one's
that.
first class, but yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard you're right. I've heard like good things about their lounges, And yeah, I think, there are some lounges where they're just worth unique experiences. Like I've always wanted to try the Air France La Première lounge. I've never flown Air France first class, so I'm not going to have that, I haven't had the chance yet, but I've heard that may be the world's best first class lounge because it is extraordinarily difficult to get access to that because it's somewhat easy to get access to Al Safwa. You can just book a intergulf business class flight and they market it as first. So like
Mhm.
even though it's the business product, it's marketed as first, so I have access. But like Air France La Premieres, it's basically impossible to book on points
Yeah.
unless you have high tier status. Even if you do, it's super expensive. The best way to get access to it is book a business class award on Air France, and then at like day of departure, ask if they have any upgrades available into La Premiere, and you can pay like a quote unquote reasonable co-charge. Like it's like probably
It's
$2,000 plus, but that's better than
still a lot,
20,000.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, with Cathay, at least you can book those with one world partners like American and Alaska. It can actually be very good value, but it's really hard with Air France, to book La Premiere. Are there any other lounges you wanted to mention, Sean?
I mean, there's Lufthansa First as well. That's a famous one in Frankfurt. I think that's a
Mhm.
really cool one. There's like they have these like rubber ducks, and people have this whole hobby of like collecting them when they fly Lufthansa First Class. So that's been a goal of mine.
Yeah.
I know the Emirates one in Dubai is also supposed to be amazing. The
Mhm.
Emirates First one there is awesome. The Al Marjan Business in Doha is also very good. It's a massive, massive lounge. That's pretty good as well. And I think that one you can have access with One World Sapphire or Emerald, which is cool. Those are like the main ones in terms of just world class, unique experiences. And so the question that we should ask with the lounges is, are they overrated? What's your view on this? Like, is it actually worth it to go out of your way to get some lounge access method?
Well, first of all, I think generally I wouldn't pay a bunch of money for lounges, or I would really only get lounge access as part of a credit card that already pays for itself via its other perks. Right? I think the Venture X is a good example. The credits already cover the annual fee. So to me, the lounge is just a plus, or like this platinum card to get to the Centurion Lounge. Even though it's $695 annual fee, which is still steep, if you're able to use those credits, it's very heavily subsidized, right? But another point I think I really want to emphasize is that I think this answer really depends on particular travel habits. For example, if you're flying out a lot on Delta and you find that they're constantly overcrowded, maybe the lounges are not for you. If you are a person that is really there for the food, you're going to have different priorities than someone who's there to have a place to sit and relax. Also, it depends on like what airports you're flying out of, right? So it's hard for me to generalize, oh, Party Pass is generally better. This other membership or whatever, because it's very location dependent. Party Pass, very bad in SFO unless you're using the restaurants. Okay. But it's great in other countries like in Asia, right? Party Pass is the only way to get any lounge access out of SJC, which is the airport I fly out of. And I think the best airport in SFO is the United Polaris lounge, but you have to, as I said, it's very hard to get into that. You have to fly Star Alliance Business first internationally. But on the other hand, right, let's say I'm in the Taipei airport, just from my personal experience, by the way, right? The Party Pass restaurant or lounge there, in my opinion, is literally better than the Eva Air business class lounge, right? So it just depends on where you are, and what you're looking for. Food, or is it like not being overcrowded? And what do you think, Sean?
I agree with your take, pretty much entirely here. I think one thing I want to add is that a lot of times when you'll see people like hyping up credit cards on YouTube and stuff, they'll talk about like priority pass. No, you get this, lounge membership and all that. And I think people need to really like lower their expectations for it because it's not some super exclusive club that, oh, once you've gotten this credit card, now you get all these amazing lounge benefits. Like maybe if your travel, network and routings like are that good, maybe, but it's not some exclusive club. And I think also something to consider, like when considering a credit card, if you're playing this game for the long term, you're gonna have a lot of lounge memberships. Like Priority Pass, any card that offers Priority Pass, I don't even consider that a benefit because I have like 6 Priority Pass cards now. They don't. The only one that would provide any extra benefit is if I could get one that has like the restaurants and experience. But as a whole, like I have so many that it doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't, provide any extra benefit, any extra utility. So that's something you should consider, especially as you're getting started in the game. that if you're like, oh, I need to get this card because it has Priority Pass, but pause for a second. Are you going to ever get other cards that have Priority Pass? Because, maybe that first one doesn't mean as much then. Maybe you should get a different credit card. So that is something I
Yeah.
think more people should really take into consideration.
I think that's an awesome take, similar to like the TSA pre-check credit. Like I have like so many cards that have that it's like meaningless. It doesn't move the needle, so to speak, when I get a new card that also has that credit or have a party pass. And just make sure you know which ones have the restaurants, which ones don't. Right, and like which ones to activate. Like that's why there are a bunch of it, like the Hilton Aspire card that my dad had. We didn't even bother activating that party pass membership because we already have one's from Capital One and the Platinum card and US Bank, right? So I would say I would agree with the take on diminishing returns. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today's episode. If you enjoyed what we talked about and thought it was cool, please make sure you like the video and subscribe because it really helps out with the algorithm. If you're interested in applying for any of the credit cards we've been talking about or any credit cards at all, please check out the links in the description. Using them to apply helps us out so much. You have no idea. And Sean, will you plug our Discord?
Yeah, so if you want to connect with an elite group of award travelers, if you want to learn so much in this space and you want to be alerted of amazing, like super exclusive deals, then check out the Travel Lane Discord group. It's at the link in the description. 100% for free, nothing for sale, no course, nothing like that, all for free. Check it out. You'll learn a bunch, I promise you. So we will see you next week.